Hello guys and welcome to the channel. Beverroll here with another PvE build, which this time I think the best build possible for Guardian in general, in all content in a way. Of course for raid you would probably copy the same build and go with full damage, like you change stuff on your gear, but you won't change even the traits themselves, because shockingly when I finished this build I thought to myself, this amount of damage and correlation between traits is a meta build. So I went to meta battle, which I usually don't use, not that I had any problem with it, I just like to do my own builds, and I found that yes, I shockingly after 4 days of testing I just made the meta build, like the same build. Of course not the skills in a way, and I'm gonna explain why, and not the mentality and style of playing, which is gonna be different. This is an open world build. You can use it in fractal, strike, everything, because the damage is really high. You can reach a burst about 10 or 11k normally, and you still have emergency healing, you still have some boons if needed. It is really good. So let's tell you the story about this happened. I wanted at start to make two builds, the best possible, which fit all my point in a build, power and condition build for Guardian. And sadly there is no power build possible. If I ever found one or CD crafted and thought one was possible, I would probably give it to you guys. But as of this point, yes, of course a lot of people play it and a lot of people play Dragon Hunter, but I don't think it is good enough, and I don't think there is a point in playing it. The only build that fit my build and actually really good, that it more stronger than the Soul Beast in a way. I mean, it has its downside and advantages, but the amount of survivability with the amount of damage and the ability to give people supports yet with healing and boons, it just really high with Guardian. It is kinda OP. Anyway, so this is gonna be my only build for Guardian right now, but a lot of things can happen in the future. I always test things around. So as I said, the traits are literally the meta build. We going with Zeal, Radiance and Firebrand. So I'm gonna start explaining everything and why do I did. But before that, let me tell you how the idea of this build work. So this build is as much damage as possible, but yet can have as much survivability. So we're not going with something like Viper or full glassy condition power damage, no. We focus only on burning, significantly on burning, and we put a lot of toughness and vitality. We reduce damage coming to us from various sources in many ways and heal a lot in it. So it's like the Holosmith build, but its own way. It is of course not as strong as the Holo in reducing damage, but it is still insane in healing. It really focuses on the rotation. If you mess up your rotation, you're gonna almost need to reset the entire rotation. You're gonna be kiting and stuff like this. It can be extremely strong if played right, but it can be like, oops, I am dead if not. I mean, it is still strong and have a lot of toughness and stuff, but the room for error can really get diminished the harder the fight is. Like doing full events solo or champion solo can be really punishing, but it is strong in general. So now for Zeal I go with 3-3-1. This skill is our source of might through Scepter 2. It already grant might, but now it's gonna grant a lot of might once you trigger your passive effect of Virtue skill 1. So it can give you up to 25 might easily. And the other one is free condition damage, transfer from power. And the third one is half of the damage of this build almost come from this skill. I would say the third, not the half probably, but more than half of the burst, honestly, like the start of the fight. Because this sword can be casted from very far away like this and do insane burn AoE, so it's a way of fighting from range. We know Guardian range is not great anyway, but this sword changed everything for it. And we still have Scepter and Focus. Our symbols do something else too. Not only the scepter getting might and stuff like this. With this trait, our symbol do more damage, which we don't really care about. We're full condi, but it triggers the passive effect of the burning, which our main source of damage, or at least like 50% of our damage, twice as fast. So with this symbol, we're gonna be spamming more burns on an AoE level. And this trait also gives us a source of vulnerability on our symbols in general. And we have another symbol that can be triggered whenever we hit health lower than 75%, which we're gonna be doing a lot of the time, like almost off cooldown gonna be happening, I guess, or like once and the other time. The second one is Radiance, which I go with 2-2-1. This trait is honestly, I mean, it is the best option, but the three of them are kind of irrelevant. But since we have this trait of getting conditioned by 10% of power, so more power make more sense. And the Fury is irrelevant because we don't care about dealing critical damage, and the retaliation we don't even build in it, so it's not a big deal what you take from them. The second one is Radiant Fire, which in AoE around us in a range of I don't know, like 180 or something. It is Torch skill 4 actually, yeah, 180, and it is unblockable. The trigger burn around us every 10 seconds as long as we're fighting. It happened only in critical hit, but we hit a lot of hits, so it's gonna be happening a lot. And we already have Fury from some sources. Since it happened only in critical hit, you can take this, the Fury one. It's kind of up to you, which you're gonna have a huge Fury uptime. So you can go with the Fury. It's okay. I tried every one of them and didn't feel that much difference. This skill be triggered almost off cooldown, no problem. The last one is making our passive effect longer for 20%. And make the burning in general that we do higher damage. As you see, this skill and this one. Look to the numbers. About 1.5k, about 3k. Now, our burning in general do more damage and the duration is increased. And for the minors, the first one putting blind AoE and giving us light aura once we activated, like enter the first tomb. But the second one is making our tomb reset every time we get a kill on a mob. So whenever we kill or cause damage to an NPC character that it dies, this skill is resetted, so we can re-enter it, reuse the skill, which is amazing for meta events or anything you do in PvE that you can kill mobs fast, not like a solo content when you focus on a one champion or something. The third one is a higher critical chance against burning food and higher ferocity, which irrelevant to our build since we are fully conditioned, as you know. But the critical chance is still good with Radiant Fire and with the Fury. So against a normal mob you can reach like 20, it's a 35%, so it is kinda good anyway. Now, why we take Firebrand? Firebrand is the king of all PvE content, and it is amazing in general. Why? Because if you don't build and heal, you still have healing skills and condition removal and some boons, regeneration, everything you want. If you don't build in boons, you still have a lot of defense. You don't need to take skills in here. You have extra weapon set of damaging with burning and stuff, and AoE, and it can even reset like mad with these skills. And also, even more important than this, then we get to use all the skills while keeping the passive from Lore Master, which is insane. It is like those skills, or at least this one, doesn't need to be always not used, always passive. No, you can use it freely because it is always passive with this trait. So this is why Firebrand is the king. And also it has a weapon that actually do condition damage on melee, so it doesn't only count on the passive or a skill like this one or like utility, it also count on the weapon itself. Firebrand or Condition Guardian in general count only on the passive from this, on the traits like this one, and on utilities, but only Firebrand can use a weapon that actually do condition. So the traits I take 1, 3, 3. The first one is given our axes more a little bit condition damage because of the bleed on it, but we do not build in bleed, so it is a little bit meh for us. We don't care, our damage is really high that we don't care about this, but still it can really build up. And the real point is the days. It's crucial for our the amount of CC we can do, and because the other two traits honestly is almost irrelevant. Higher tomb, more tomb pages we don't need. Actually the tomb pages is already enough, we don't camp them, we're not playing support or something. And the other one is quickness, we are not building quickness, we have damage and we don't care about this. So the axe is really good for us for the CC. The second one is higher burning duration for our damage, and one of the best sources for healing for us is that we regenerate a lot, and that can happen when we use the second tomb, so we get regeneration on everything that we do, so our healing can keep building up, which I'm gonna explain when I come really in how do we heal in this build. And the protection from the third tomb to reduce damage, so we can build some protection. We do not have a pet or minion or whatever or shroud to take damage for us, so we need to reduce damage through a lot of other sources. So this skill is a must, and honestly the other two is completely irrelevant to the build and doesn't work. I hate mantras and I think they are irrelevant, at least in this build, and if you're trying to make in the best build, because you have to reset them whenever you change a map, you have to not use the full charge, so you always get less value out of them. And I'm not going to discuss the mantra in this video. Anyway, the other one is another quickness, so we don't use it. The last one is the skill that reduce the charge of our skills from the tomb skills, which we can remember when we said this one reset every time we kill a mob. So now when we enter this tomb again, we're gonna have our skills of cooldown, because the biggest cooldown is 8 seconds. Like this skill is about 6 seconds, so we always have our skills of cooldown because this, and it given us the virtues passive, it never goes away, which is work amazingly in harmony with each other. Now for the gear, I use full Trailblazer, well not full except like 2 pieces or something. Why? Because I'm gonna go through it, but the point is I want burning to reach about 100%. I didn't get it to 100%, but it is close enough, so this is what I want. So full Trailblazer can get you even higher, which we do not need, we cap at 100, so that's what we stuck in. So my full armor is Trailblazer with the rune of Balthazar, which given us 50% burning duration and given us condition damage, and 10% max health, which is really great because Guardian have lower health to begin with. My weapons are Dire, Toughness, Vitality and Condition Major, with Sigil of Generosity and Sigil of Cleansing. Yeah, I know this is gonna be weird for some of you, but we have as you see in our utility here, there is not a single skill that actually remove condition, and we need to remove condition without counting on a 50-second cooldown skill to get in and then start casting skills for cleansing condition. So we use generosity for every 6 seconds. We will be, like I said, we hit a lot, so the trigger of this skill can be really easy, as I'm gonna show you here. Once we own the weapon, I can do something like this, I can do that, and as you see, those bloody stains are a trigger of critical chance skill. So they happen a lot. We do, and like I said, we already have high critical chance. So it is really good, our generosity. And cleansing, for every time we weapon swap, we would be cleansing 3 conditions. I only had 1 cleansing sigil since I don't have crafting to make it, so I only ended up using 1, which I strongly suggest use 2. I ended up using corruption or something, whatever, just for the test. But use on both weapon sets 2 generosity, 2 cleansing. is, believe me, you're gonna need it. We wanna be survivable and easily. You don't wanna struggle with survivability. And my trinkets and back all Trailblazer, except those two accessories are dire too. And as you saw, I use X shield as a melee style weapon with CC and a lot of CC and ages and protection and condition. And if we are fighting from range or switching weapons, I use Scepter with immobilize, vulnerability, and symbol from far away, and even this skill can be casted from far away with blocks too. So I have offhand defensive on both weapon sets. Now, if you can't get Trailblazer, you can actually use Dire in this set, in this build, but you're gonna be using instead of Generosity, I would go with Sigil of Smoldering. So you would be having 50% from Balthazar and 20% from Smoldering, which gets you up to 70% at least. And Dire have higher condition damage, so this is gonna be counting for this, and the build would still work really fine, and the damage is high, don't worry about it. But I would really suggest using cleansing on the other set. If you can't get cleansing, or what should you do before you get cleansing if you're not having the crafting or whatever? Then use Smoldering, and the other sigil can be Generosity, but you're gonna be a little bit struggling with condition. You're gonna need to be careful while playing in heavy condition areas and preserving condition cleansing skill, like skill 5 here and skill 2. They are the two skills that cleanse condition for you. Now, for our skills, I use Litany of Wrath, I guess that's called, and Signet of Judgment, but this can be changed, and I'm going to explain with what, but this is the build as it's best for. Okay, so Signet of Judgment and Sword of Justice, Save Yourselves, and Signet of Courage. So the skills that you can change is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do not change any of them. The build will not work the same, especially when you understand the rotation as I'm going to explain it. But this skill, I a lot used Hold the Line instead of it. The idea is having some heal and damage reduction. So I found this one to be better, since now we have 2 stun breaks actually, those 2 skills, and even better for damage, and it lowers the damage and condition damage, which we a little struggle about, for 10%. Not 33% like this one, but it is constant as long as we have it. So this is why the build is this way. Now, I'm gonna explain the rotation as it is in like solo content, which is kinda the best rotation in general. If I'm running around killing mobs, sometimes I stay on Scepter, like doesn't even go to X at all. I'll be fighting from far and putting my swords and putting my symbol on mobs. When they come on me, I immobilize them. It doesn't matter. The rotation doesn't really matter this much. Except for something that's always gonna be stuck with you, which how do we heal? We be having some burn or whatever, like melee around our the mobs around us, putting a symbol on us or something, and usually we would have this skill triggered. It is about 3 seconds and do a lot of burn every 10 seconds. So let's say we stand our symbol or something, trigger at least 1 sword and heal. Now 33% of every damage you do, which condition count actually, for 6 seconds will be healing you. We can have like 5, 8, 10k burnings easily. It doesn't even like, it's not hard to build it up. It is completely fast and normal for us to do insane amount of damage like this, and this is why we use this skill. Now for healing with the tomb, if you needed to kite and reset if your health is extremely down and this skill of cooldown, your best skill is 4 or 3 honestly, but since there is a difficulty in casting 3, use whatever. I usually use 4, but the point is we need a skill that gives us swiftness, so we can run from the mobs while we heal. Okay, usually try to use 2 or 5, at least one of them to cleanse condition, whatever new, either turn into boon or healing for them. Usually healing for them is better since your life is already in a kind of a threat. So one of them at least. So I would go with 4 or 5 and then 2 and then 1 1 1 because it has the highest healing number. Now for another healing point that you're gonna see me doing it in a really difficult challenges, I would do something like this skill to make sure the mobs cannot interact me, because I have 3 blocks now, and I would cast this one. If you finish casting this skill, which I didn't since I don't want it to go on cooldown, I don't know why, but if you finish casting it, even since you protect yourself with a block like you have in 4k health or something, you're gonna be healed and everyone around you to full health 100%. And now you're gonna be rotating again and your skill gonna be coming off cooldown, like your healing skill or Tomb 7 or whatever. So the healing process in this build is delicate, since you have to count for every cooldown that's happening, so you can survive really good in hard and difficult situation and still do amazing damage. Another note on our healing, as you see, we keep getting hit, but we keep healing constantly. 1 from the food, 1 from the Tome of Resolve, and the signet healing us every 3 seconds, everyone around us. So it is really great healing. And also we can have regeneration, almost a lot of regeneration. Everything we do in the tomb here will give us regeneration, and this skill gives us regeneration. If you were using the other shout too, you would get a lot of regeneration. As you see, we can almost be spamming with regeneration in a way. So a lot of healing sources with damage reduction through protection stuff, like from Tomb 5, everything you do give you protection. So it is really great and work really well with each other. So how do I start with my rotation in this build? You would be let's say you're going for a champion. Engage for breaking defense bar if possible, and you can also be using something like the way station from Drizzlewood or whatever tool you want. It's convenient, but you don't need. Usually you have enough to break defense bar. So I would go down, I would trigger something like this skill to push back. The ages will be gone. I would use this ball days. I'll be putting this one. I would immobilize symbols. I would enter this skill, trigger the ball and do this one, few damages. I will be using this one again, another symbol, triggering the block and skill 4, and do another ball, another daze, this one, and I triggered another knockback, and the mob would be, defense bar would be gone. And I'll be gonna explain anything on the footage against a really difficult mob, which I completely almost destroying easily way. But it's because of the rotation, and you're gonna see multiple times. If you don't really care about breaking defense bar, I mean, it's always better to do it, but some mobs and some situation you need to stay at range and stuff like this, so it's fine. But keep in mind this rotation for when you want to break defense bar. The mob will be hitting you and you're almost tanking in front of its face and you're attacking and stuff. So now you will let your health go down to like 6k or something. You would heal and trigger a sword, and another hit, another symbol, and trigger another sword. You will find your health go up like nuts. For the 2 stun breaks, depending on the situation, I would usually try to use save yourself first. But if I'm gonna be stunned multiple times, I would rather sometimes trigger, and the damage not really great because the mob is melee or something, so I can kite it. I would use something like Signet of Judgment, because I don't already need that much damage reduction, like I can sacrifice it, and I need more stun breaks. So manage them as you see fit in a fight. But usually I would like to have the boons and fight freely with them, and this is to save my life and start kiting after it. And it's already short, so it becomes off cooldown again. So as I explained the rotation, there is a part I didn't mention in it, which when the defense bar is really hard to break and you need to kinda protect yourself. You can't really face tank this much. So the second rotation that's gonna be done is like we did: shield, ages, ball, daze, immobilize, the defense stuff, ball, another one here, spam them, enter the second tomb, trigger the taunt, and it depends on the situation if you need this one or not, and you can trigger another taunt, the last one, and you can swipe weapons, another ball, another, and a bush, etc. So now you have a lot of protection, so you can withstand this tankiness, and also you would be applying all this damage and breaking the defense bar easily. And I'm not focusing enough on triggering Sword of Justice, but you would be triggering it as much as possible. Don't spam it like really hard, like keep pressing it in front of like after each other, because it has 16-second cooldown, and it is one of the best, if not the best, skill to work with your healing. So you always need to have like 1 or 2 at least in your disposal, and you're gonna be doing insane damage already. Like stop canceling those skills for Sword of Justice simply while you still trying to break Defiance bar. I'd usually go for the third or casting or whatever once the Defiance bar is broke, and I keep at least 1 for my healing. Now we explain the CC or normal rotation while damage and the full CC rotation. I'm gonna explain the damaging rotation, when you don't really care about like you're playing with another people, fighting bounty or whatever, so you don't focus on your own CC that much. You would still have a lot of CC and immobilize and people doing it, but the rotation is gonna be a little bit different. It's different because we do not want to get into boons and healing if we don't need to. If we support other people or saving their lives, completely fine. But we're gonna be focused only on damage, since that's our kind of rule or the point of this build. So when you enter the first tomb, you would cast, see how the cooldown is gonna be managed as I do it. You would be casting 2, 5, 3, 1, 2. Why is that? Because 2 have the highest damage possible in this, except for the 5 course, and the only skill that we cannot wait around like idiot and cast it. So we want to cast it twice, and the only way to do that, to have enough time, is when we start with it. You see, I'm gonna enter. It has a 2-second 3/4 cooldown, and it can give 10k burn and put weakness too. So once we hit it and hit 5 to get ourselves higher stacks and do the AoE damage, it'd still be a cooldown. I do it slow here to show you. So you will trigger the 1 skill from this and then trigger it again. And this is the best rotation to use your 5 tombs with the highest damage possible. Because now we don't use skill 3 and only use 2 twice. So that's it for the build, and I hope you like it and find it useful. Give it a try. There are gonna be a lot of fights showing how it actually works when I finally mastered it, or at least close enough to master it. And the rotation, everything, a lot of solo content as usual, and I will be seeing you next time. Don't forget to sub, like, and share it with your Guardian friends. Okay? Support the channel, and peace.
Take a moment right here, feeling like it's out gear, driving towards the sun with a rose and a gun. Feel the wind in my hair, going nowhere I swear, like an outlaw on the run. Dangerous but it's so fun, running, running, no, hold on, don't let go. Told my boss that I'm done. Had no luck with my mom. Say, what will you do with your life? You know it's hard to survive. A cigar in my mouth. Maybe guilty but proud. Now I'm an outlaw on the run. Dangerous but it's so fun. Running, running, no. Hold on, don't let go. Running, running, no. Keep running on. Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying out its prayer. Why are we so ashamed to be alive? Break the chains and our freedom's ours to take. Look behind your back. Chase a light when the world is getting darker. I have a dream where love's the only side. So take my hand, join the army of the shadows. Going harder, we are more than numbers. Standing in this aid. Going louder, we are all one color. Standing in their way.
n'existait pas. Elle est passée à côté de moi, sans un regard, reine de Saba. J'ai dit Aïcha, prends tout pour toi. Voici les perles, les bijoux, aussi le retour de ton cou, les bruits bien mûrs au goût de miel. Ma vie, Aïcha, si tu m'aimes, j'irai où ton souffle nous mène, dans les pays d'ivoire et d'ébène. J'effacerai tes larmes, tes peines. Rien n'est trop beau pour une si belle. Oh, Aïcha, Aïcha, écoute-moi. Aïcha, Aïcha, grand baba. Aïcha, Aïcha, regarde-moi. Oh, Aïcha, Aïcha, rêve en moi. Je dirai les poèmes. Je jouerai les musiques du ciel. Je prendrai les rayons du soleil pour éclairer tes yeux de rêve. Aïcha, Aïcha, écoute-moi. Oh, Aïcha, Aïcha, grand papa. Aïcha, Aïcha, écoute-moi. Oh, Aïcha, Aïcha, grand papa. Aïcha, 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 نبغيك عايشة ونموتالك. هادي سيد حياتي وحبي، انتي عمري وانتي حياتي. تمنيت نعيش معك غير انتي. Oh, Aïcha, Aïcha, écoute-moi.